All righty, let's take a look at our potential of some strong to severe storms late on this Friday evening. We have a little bit of at least potential of some strong to severe storms across northeast Ohio. We have that threat for some damaging winds, especially with that severe thunderstorm watch now in play. This does not include the I-90 corridor across at least from Sandusky to Norwalk into Lorain, Cuyahoga County, not under that at least watch at the moment. Neither is Lake and Geauga and Ashtabula County, but everywhere you see that yellow shading, certainly that threat for some at least severe weather a possibility late this evening throughout parts of northeast Ohio. So let's take a look at least the current radar right now. Power 5 picking up at least a little bit of activity to our south and west across parts of Richland County down into central Ohio. We have one severe thunderstorm warning in play for Richland County going through about 10:30 p.m. by my watch. We're at about 10:10 right now. So another about 20 or so minutes before we actually see that at least start to disappear once again. So the movement continues to be a little bit more due east to kind of northeast over the next several hours. So we're looking at more of that severe potential for most of the southern half of our viewing area. So essentially the Route 30 corridor and points southward, a better chance of seeing that strong to severe storms through the next several hours. There could be a couple pop-ups across parts of at least northern half of the region, but more or less looking at more of that southerly component for a lot of these storms over the next several hours. So we're looking at a couple of storms towards the south and west, and you'll notice there's not a lot of lightning associated with the storm actually in Mansfield. There could be some gusty winds out there, and let's take a look at our Barron button. I'm not showing anything as far as hail indications, which is certainly some good news, but there could be some gusty winds and definitely a potential for some at least 50 to maybe 60 mile per hour gusts over the next several hours. So you definitely want to continue to at least be aware of some of these stronger wind gusts through the next several hours for parts of Mansfield down towards the central half of Ohio. So thankfully, not a lot of coverage right now with regards to severe weather, but the threat will be there, especially in our southern communities for the next several hours, but nothing really to worry about right now here in Greater Cleveland along the lakeshore. There are a couple of at least lightning bolts over Lake Erie. Let's put that into motion over the last hour. Those are beginning to form with a bit of a lake breeze, but you'll notice they're kind of pushing further towards the north. So not a lot of coverage even into parts of northeast Ohio. They're moving off towards the northeast. So right now, just a bit of concern off towards the south across parts of the Route 30 corridor. And this looks to be kind of the at least chance of severe weather over the next several hours. So we'll keep a very close eye on this as it does continue to move a little bit further eastward. So a lot of these storms are continuing to weaken as there is still a bit of a cap in through parts of northeast Ohio. And that kept a lot of the at least severe thunderstorm potential yesterday, at least for most of us at bay until the wee hours of this morning. Between about 4 and 6 a.m., we saw a couple of storms across parts of northeast Ohio. But there is at least a little bit of severe potential with that severe thunderstorm watch for most of northeast Ohio going through about 4 a.m. So we'll keep a very close eye on our southern communities, especially from about the I-30 corridor, or Route 30 corridor, excuse me, and points eastward. So just that one severe thunderstorm warning in our viewing area, especially around Mansfield, but noticing not a lot of lightning there, which is certainly some good news. Could be a couple of gusty winds. Let's take a look at our base velocity right now. Let's take a couple of samples here. So let's zoom in closer to Mansfield. So about 45, 50 miles an hour. Now this is kind of between about, 4,000 and 5,000 feet up. So some of this probably isn't necessarily reaching the ground, but there is a potential for some stronger winds at about 40 to 50 miles an hour throughout the next hour or so through parts of at least Richland County, maybe extended into Ashland County. So we'll definitely keep a close eye on a lot of this over the next half hour or so. But as far as at least parts of Worcester and points eastward, the threat will be there, but I don't think we'll see as much as the trend continues to weaken a little bit. But most of the region currently indicating a little bit drier of an evening through most of Cleveland and points to about Route 30. So let's put this back into motion over the last hour or so. And the trend continues to move mostly eastward. So I'd say between about now and 11 o'clock-ish, I'd say between Ashland, Richland, and also parts of Wayne County. Could potentially see some stronger wind gusts, maybe a couple of torrential downpours out there, and certainly at least a threat of a little bit more lightning. As you can see, some of those lightning strikes a little bit more numerous off towards the south. So the potential will be there over the next hour or so. Not much indication, at least for the time being, here in Greater Cleveland. We'll certainly keep an eye on things for the next hour or two. So a lot of the at least potential staying to our south right now with that severe weather. So that's some good news. Not everyone looking at that potential of some stronger winds for the moment. A lot of this is going to be basically moving through between now and about midnight for most folks, and there'll be a secondary trough kind of swinging back in as we take a look at our current models. Let's take a look at our model run right now. It should be mostly in here. Let's see if I can find it. Where did that go? Let's see here if this is all the way in. Yep, all the way. Okay, so we got our latest model run right now. Doing a pretty good job. You can kind of see some of the at least stronger, cells to the south of Mansfield. Now, this is our computer model, one of our computer guidance products that kind of shows us what the atmosphere might be doing in the next couple of hours. But a lot of it continues to stay towards the south, which is really at least an indication of things kind of stabilizing across central and southern Ohio. But by 11, 12 o'clock, you'll notice the model really not showing a lot of signs of improvement. So at least the potential kind of there between now and about midnight, and then there'll be a secondary kind of at least threat for some showers, maybe some storms. This doesn't appear to be a lot of severe. There could be some torrential downpours out there across the northern half of the region. But between about 3 and 4 o'clock, there might be a few more storms to contend with, especially since most of Greater Cleveland didn't experience a lot of these rain showers and thunderstorms for the latter half of this evening. So there might be some stronger winds in a couple of these storms, and we'll definitely keep an eye on them throughout the overnight tonight as this system continues to move further eastward. But models suggesting just a couple more raindrops and or thunderstorms throughout the wee hours of tomorrow morning. And that's kind of the main front that'll start to move through. And then once that gets past, the severe threat pretty much over with once we get to about 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. But it's going to be pretty windy as you head out and about to start off your weekend. So a lot of the folks across Northeast Ohio right now, let's get you caught up right now. Severe thunderstorm warning in place for Richland County. That goes to about 10:30, so another 15 minutes of at least a little bit more of that severe potential across Richland counties. And with regards to Dover, New Philly, let's take a look at, let's see, Papa Smurf. Definitely some stronger winds, a possibility between now and I'd say about midnight tonight as this continues to march further eastward. We have a severe thunderstorm watch for the next several hours for Tuscarawas County. That goes to about 4 a.m. And as far as, let's see here, Connor watching us from the YouTube channel. Definitely great to have you along. A little bit of severe potential out there. More high winds rather than tornadic development, at least the good possibility from these storms as they're kind of congealed as a big, at least thunderstorms, so not individual storms, which kind of keeps things a little bit more, at least high wind oriented rather than the actual potential of some tornadic development. Certainly some good news there. Haven't seen many, at least tornado warnings across central and southwestern Ohio, but there are some tornado warnings towards the south around Kentucky. So this big mass all the way from Columbus down to Lexington, Bowling Green, Nashville, that's tornadic potential. That's well to our south and west, and that's where those tornado watches are going to be for the next several hours. So once we get past a lot of these, things will start to at least quiet down greatly once we get past midnight into the at least second half of the overnight tonight. So we have that potential for some damaging winds, maybe a little bit of large hail, and certainly some heavy downpours with some frequent lightning, a possibility here in Northeast Ohio. So a lot of potential of some lightning right now across parts of Richland County, a little bit more of that across Knox County, but the trend continues to push it mostly eastward for the next couple of hours. So we have that severe thunderstorm watch just issued over the last half hour or so. That goes through about the 4 o'clock hour tomorrow morning. I don't see it lasting that long, truthfully. Some of these storms are a little feistier throughout the latter half of the evening hours. some of that lightning isn't really totally, at least encompassing that entire warning. So that's some good news as well. But that threat for a little bit of gusty winds will be at least concern with these storms as they do move further eastward. So with regards to most of the areas from about Route 30 and points north, I'm not really seeing a lot going on. So those folks, Ashley asking about Massillon, yeah, there could be a potential of a couple of storms through the next hour or so across Massillon, but I'm not really anticipating a lot of coverage north of that, which is some good news. So there will be that potential for at least the threat of some damaging winds between now and about midnight as this system continues to move further eastward. So at least the threat will be there this evening. Not a lot of coverage, which is some good news. We just have that one severe thunderstorm warning right now till about 10:30, so another about 10 minutes or so before that's set to expire. And a lot of folks at least enjoying the day today, a lot of at least 70s and 80s throughout the afternoon hours. But once we see our front push through, it's going to be a different story for the second half of the day today through the day tomorrow. Let's take a look at temperatures just to the north and west, as a lot of these numbers are dropping pretty rapidly behind this secondary boundary. So we have one front moving through right now. That's the warm front, those red at least circles, and the cold front off towards the north. And once that front passes through, it's going to be a little bit colder and breezier. So we'll be looking at those temperatures probably into the upper 50s to start off tomorrow morning, and really not showing signs of a lot of at least warming by any stretch throughout the afternoon and evening on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll probably need to find the jackets once this system does move through. So definitely some change in the air once again, but to at least continue to show signs of development across our southern communities. Some severe thunderstorm warnings, which is encompassing parts of Richland County for about the next 7 or so minutes, and through parts of central Ohio. Not much else to talk about, thankfully, with regards to severe thunderstorm warnings, but we do have that watch at least for the next several hours across parts of northeast Ohio, which does not technically include greater Cleveland or the shoreline communities. So Ashtabula, Lake Geauga, Greater Cleveland, Lorain, towards the Norwalk and Sandusky area are not officially under that severe thunderstorm watch, but further south, Akron, Medina, Portage County, and points south, you're under that watch until about 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Will it last that long? I don't think so, but the potential will be there for some strong storms, especially the further south of at least the Route 30 corridor. So we'll certainly be looking at a little bit in the way of at least some damaging winds and perhaps a little bit of small hail, a possibility through the latter half of this evening. So some good news there. Not a lot going on across northeast Ohio during the day today. These storms kind of fired up throughout the latter half of the evening hours. So at least a threat for some stronger storms continues to move in. Lorain County, potential for a couple of storms. Candace, let's take a look here through the second half of the overnight tonight. So there could be a couple more at least during the latter half of the overnight tonight through the day tomorrow. Whether or not they'll be at least severe, still up in the air at the moment. So the atmosphere is really starting to show signs of at least not weakening necessarily, but continuing to show signs of at least stabilization for the latter half of the overnight tonight. So models not showing a lot of consistency, with at least potential for at least severe thunderstorms after midnight, but there could be some gusty winds, perhaps even a little bit further into the early morning hours of tomorrow with some heavy downpours once again. So right now, just one severe thunderstorm warning for Richland County, and that expires in the next, I'd say about 6 minutes or so. By my clock, we've got about 10:23 right now. So a little bit more in the way of some heavy downpours for most folks across our southern communities. By the time we get into the next hour or two, we'll probably at least see some heavy rain in a few locations. Flooding threat, a possibility. There could be some pounding on some of those roadways during the latter half of the overnight tonight. And not much else to worry about as far as flooding, which is some good news. So let's take a look at Natasha watching us from Facebook Live. Thank you very much. The Worcester area could potentially see some damaging winds. We'll have to wait and see if the National Weather Service continues to bring that warning into Wayne County over the next half hour or so, because we have that one warning in place until about 10:30. So we've got another 5 minutes or so on that, and there hasn't been a warning issued, which is at least some good news there. So hopefully we'll keep the warnings at bay towards our southern communities, because you can notice there's a little bit more lightning in these storms, basically from Mansfield. Let's get the right clicker here. There we go. So Mansfield and, I'd say points south is the better chance of seeing that lightning. So we're looking at a little bit more of a strengthening towards the south of the Route 30 corridor. And that potential could be a little bit more stronger around parts of Worcester, Canton over the next hour or so. But let's take a look at the current movements over the last hour or so. And more or less moving due east. So I think probably Worcester, by the time we get into the next half hour, 45 minutes, could be a little rainy, some stormy weather, but not a lot of at least warnings right now, because we have another 5 minutes on the severe thunderstorm warning, and they have not issued another one. So that is some good news there. Let's see here. Carol talking about Summit County. Possibility, storms right now kind of staying to the south of downtown Akron. So the further south of Akron towards Canton, the better chance of maybe seeing some of these stronger storms kind of clip the area. So that is at least potential for the latter half of the evening hours. And let's see here, getting a little bit of lightning and thunder right now in Lakeville. Definitely thank you for that report, Courtney. A little bit of that lightning going to be a little bit stronger in parts, so there might be some rumbles of thunder that kind of last a few more seconds than you normally would hear, and a lot of this lightning is more or less confined to Knox County, not necessarily starting to intensify even more for parts of Mansfield and points north, so that's some good news. Not a lot of this coverage is going to intensify as it does move further eastward, so there could be a couple more storms starting to move further east. And hopefully we'll get some at least deterioration, if I could talk, this evening of that potential of severe weather. So that's some good news. Greater Cleveland right now along the lakeshore, pretty quiet. Let's see here. Let's see. Ashland, lots and lots of lightning starting to make your way in. No warning yet. National Weather Service has not continued that warning, which is at least some good news, but there might be another severe thunderstorm warning issued for Ashland County as that potential for some damaging winds, maybe some pea-sized hail. Haven't seen many reports of hail so far, but the warning has not been issued for Ashland County, so that is some good news. It's still in place for Richland until about 10:30 this evening, so we have that continuing to move further eastward. And if they don't continue to issue that warning, that is a good sign that this storm is actually continuing to weaken. So those folks in Worcester might not even see a lot of that severe potential, as models kind of suggesting this kind of fades even more as we get closer and closer to 11, 12 o'clock tonight. So kind of what we had last night. So there were some storms towards the north, and not a lot of it actually reached us. So that was at least some good news, but it took pretty much all day to kind of figure that out, as the models were not really showing signs of weakening until later in the afternoon and evening. So yeah, Mother Nature still does what she wants to do. We just kind of sit there and hope for the best with a lot of these storms as they do continue to move through. So right now, just a couple up, there's that warning. Just put that into place right now for Ashland County and also for Wayne County, the extreme southern half of Medina County, and Holmes County until about 11:30. So we have another hour for that warning to expire. So this is kind of a slow-moving storm, producing some heavy downpours, maybe some gusty winds, and some torrential, at least lightning, a good bet for the latter half of the next hour. So we're definitely keeping an eye on that. And between now and about 11 o'clock, I'll be able to stay here with you. I got to get on TV for the 11 o'clock news. And if we continue to see these signs of more severe weather, I'll certainly be with you after the 11 o'clock news and continue coverage, bringing you the latest on all of these storms that are continuing to push through parts of the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes. So a lot of the storms towards the south, a little bit more tornadic. We have a lot of tornado watches all the way from southwestern Ohio down through Kentucky, parts of Tennessee, even into parts of northern Mississippi. So this is a pretty wide event for the latter half of your Friday. And notice the lightning strikes all the way from at least central Ohio down towards the central half of Mississippi, well over 4,000 lightning strikes combined. So yeah, pretty active evening for most folks across the Ohio Valley and parts of the Tennessee River Valley. So a lot of storms continuing. Thankfully, not a lot of coverage further north of Route 30. So right now, we just have a couple of warnings for the next at least 4 or 5 minutes for parts of Richland County, but they just extended that warning now to include Ashland. Worcester is also included in that. Millersburg also to about 11:30. So this is going to be a pretty long at least slow dragging on of these storms throughout the latter half of this evening. So we're looking at a potential for some at least damaging winds, maybe a little bit of small hail out there, and certainly some heavy downpours a possibility before these storms finally start to fade through during the latter half of the evening hours. And let's see if I can get some of those warnings and get some more details. So let's see here. Cleveland National Weather Service. Okay, let's get that there. Let's check on some of these warnings. Okay. Okay, so the Ashland, let's see here, between about 60-mile-an-hour gusts being the primary concern from the National Weather Service. So a little bit more wind, still a bigger issue for most of these severe thunderstorm warnings. Haven't seen any actual hail indications, which is some good news as we don't need any hail. Winds could be a little stronger in parts of Millersburg, especially south of Worcester. So that's where the storm's a little bit more robust, and that will continue to move through the next at least a half hour and hour right now. So let's take a look here. Okay. Vicky, Cuyahoga Falls, not much going on up that way, thankfully, but there could be a couple more storms that will start to appear later tonight. Those look to be a little bit more sub-severe. It could be a little gusty wind here and there, maybe some raindrops, a little heavier at times. But once we get past midnight, things will start to decrease in severity. But right now, there could be the potential of some stronger storms, at least in our near future in our southern communities. And Parma, pretty much the same. Georgia, we're looking at that threat for a little bit more, at least rain to the south of Route 30. So Parma's not looking too bad right now. Worcester, certainly seeing some signs of rain starting to make an appearance right now. And this will continue to at least be more of a threat for the next hour or so with some gusty winds. See if we can get a few of those samples right now, some of those base velocities. And let's take a look at a couple of those winds. So 53, 55 miles an hour, at least estimated. This is a few thousand feet up into the storm. So not all of this quite reaching the surface by any stretch, but there will be that potential for maybe some gustier winds moving further southward. And the further out you go, the less likely this will actually be a little more accurate as the radar beam kind of goes up into the air. So it moves further, at least outward and further up into the sky. So once you get to, I'd say about 50, 80 miles outside of the radar itself, which is situated across Hopkins International Airport, you're really just kind of guessing as to how much of that wind is actually quite reaching the ground. So between about Medina and towards Ashland, you can get a little bit more of an advanced notice onto how much that wind is actually reaching the ground. But there could be a couple more stronger wind gusts aloft with some of that rain. So there could be a couple of at least winds closer to 60 miles an hour, which is where we need to be as far as severe thunderstorm warnings. So you notice a lot of that lightning, it's really starting to fade. So that's some good news as well. That's not really showing signs of intensification. Not a lot of that lightning being reported right now in the Power 5 for most of the northern half of the storm from Ashland towards Richland County, but definitely some lightning aplenty for the Mansfield area. So we're looking at a lot of this lightning continuing to stay a little bit further south. So that's where a lot of the at least atmospheric instability is continuing to stick around for. So a lot of this is going to stay further south for the next hour or so. Let us take a look at our one model. That'll show signs of a little bit more of the threat of a couple of raindrops, even some rumbles of thunder towards the second half of the overnight tonight. So here's our computer model guidance. Do a pretty good job showing those thunderstorms towards the south. And looking at a lot of that starting to kind of wind down once we get closer to midnight, which hopefully will happen. But computer models are just guidance. They're not actual, at least, events in real life a lot of the time. So we'll keep an eye on things for you. But the models continue to indicate more of a weakening trend with this main line of storms that is moving right through now. So at least there's some signs of good news there. And then that secondary, at least line moving through by about 3, 4 o'clock tomorrow morning could bring some more rain, perhaps even a few rumbles of thunder. Not showing a lot of signs of severe weather for the second half of the overnight tonight, but there could be some lightning out there to start off the day on Saturday. But once we get past a lot of that, by about 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, the severe threat should be pretty much over with for everyone, but it's going to be a lot colder, unfortunately, for the second half of the weekend. So a lot of folks joining us right now. Let's get you up to date. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for Ashland County. That does include Wayne County, Holmes County under that warning, and also still that warning in Ashland County through about 11:30. Kind of includes a part of Medina, but not really showing signs of a lot of that right now. And a lot of these, at least showers and storms, look to be moving further eastward. So we have that severe thunderstorm watch, that yellow watch box. That does include everyone with the exception of the Route 2 I-90 corridor, so does not necessarily include Ashtabula, Lake, Geauga, Greater Cleveland, towards Lorain and Sandusky and Norwalk. So those counties not necessarily in the watch, so that is some good news, but everywhere further south of Medina, Akron, towards the Ravenna area, that goes through about 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we'll definitely keep an eye on things for you. Make sure you're staying safe during the overnight tonight, but that severe thunderstorm potential kind of moving further eastward. So right now we have that severe thunderstorm warning for most of our, at least central counties from about I-77 and points west. That will probably include parts of Stark and southern Summit County once we get into the second half of the next hour or so, because this warning goes through about 11:30 for Wayne and Holmes County. So at least the next, I'd say about 45 to about an hour, we'll be tracking that potential of some stronger wind gusts. That's looking to be the primary concern from a lot of these storms that do continue to move further eastward. So let's take a look at a couple of these. Let's see here. Ashley in Portage County. I would definitely keep an eye on things. The chance is there for some stronger storms, especially if you're in southern Portage County over the next couple of hours, and the threat will be there maybe towards dawn tomorrow morning for parts of Portage if you're a little bit further north of that I-76 corridor. So definitely at least keep in mind you might have to at least go inside the car for a little bit if you're in the at least vehicle, or at least in the tent, if not the camper. So you want to probably at least stay inside for a little bit more throughout the second half of the overnight tonight. Shreve area not looking too bad for most of the next couple of hours, but there could be a couple of storms pushing through. Not a lot of coverage with the severe wind gust right now. That's some good news. Let's see here. Who else do we have here? Let's see. There's a couple of storms well to the north of Greater Cleveland. Those look to be moving more towards north and northeast, so those really aren't impacting Greater Cleveland so far. But let's take a wider view, and you can kind of tell there's a little bit more stabilization towards the south and west, so that's some good news there. Pardon me, the nose was itching a little bit. A lot of these showers and storms kind of pushing through, and then right behind them, things begin to weaken considerably. So not a lot of lightning associated with these cells around Delaware, towards Sydney, Lima, and Findlay. And yeah, a lot of the tornado watches are pretty much expired outside of Ohio right now. So just a couple of warnings with some severe thunderstorms for the time being right now. It's a little bit before 20 till 11. And just a couple of storms continue to move through parts of northeast Ohio. So things all in all not looking too bad. Could be a little worse in spots, maybe some heavier downpours with some of these raindrops, especially in through central, at least Ohio right now. But so far we have a couple of warnings, which will include Ashland County, that Richland County continues until 11:30. Millersburg under that warning. And the extreme southern half of Medina technically under that warning, but I'm not seeing a lot going on there at the moment. And this is more or less moving further eastward. So a lot of these storms over the next couple of hours will take some time. So between about now and I'd say midnight, 1 a.m., parts of Worcester towards Canton, even into Dover, New Philly, and points eastward, the threat will continue for maybe some gustier winds and some heavy rains, and also that potential for maybe some frequent lightning. A good bet. So I have not seen anything as far as hail, which was a little bit of an issue in a couple locations. I think a couple days ago, there were some hail reports for parts of Northeast Ohio. So let's take a look at our warnings right now. Let's see. Yeah, just some 60-mile-an-hour winds. Radar indication right now. Severe thunderstorm located line extending from Shelby towards Mount Vernon, moving at about 65 miles per hour. So these things are really starting to move late this evening. And a lot of this is going to be basically around Route 30 and points south. So let's see here. Okay. Angela, Worcester, probably going to see some heavy rain, definitely some frequent lightning, some gusty winds, 40, 50, even maybe closer to 60 miles an hour for the latter half of the evening. Time now is about 10:40. We have that warning through about 11:30, so you definitely want to at least stay a little bit more weather aware. But once this line moves through, the atmosphere kind of stabilizes. So I think once we get to about 11:30, 12 o'clock tonight for most folks, from Worcester and points west will include a little bit more in the way of quieter weather. There might be a rumble or two of thunder lingering around midnight, but all in all, things looking much, at least quieter once this main line moves through. So that is some good news for the next at least hour or two for most of Worcester and Wayne County. Let's see here. Emma, watching from New Philly, definitely some rain. Rumbles of thunder, perhaps some gusty winds within the next hour or two. No warning officially just yet, but the National Weather Service continues to at least bring those warnings further eastward as these storms move pretty quickly towards the east. A little bit maybe of a northeasterly trend to them, but lightning strikes are starting to go down a bit, especially in through the northern half of these warnings. More towards the south is where a lot of that energy is. You notice the lightning tracker going up considerably. We've been to about 100, 110 for the last couple of at least minutes for most of our northern counties. But the further south, it really starts to increase, and that's where a lot of the instability and a lot of that feistiness for these storms to kind of feed on is lying right now. So a lot more wind, I think, for parts of south and southeastern Ohio, all the way down to Chillicothe and points eastward. So a lot of those areas starting to see some weakening with these storms. That's some good news. Still some gusty winds, 40 to 50 miles an hour, maybe a brief gust of about 60 in a couple locations. So if you have anything outside, you might have to go pick it up in the neighbor's lawn tomorrow morning, especially, you know, some of the kids' toys. Perhaps, you know, some of the lawn furniture might get knocked over, but I'm not really seeing a lot of just complete damage for most of the next several hours. But there will be some lightning, so there might be a power outage or two by the time we get into the second half of the overnight tonight. So if you have to be anywhere early tomorrow morning, may want to have that cell phone, at least a battery charged, to kind of get you up and going tomorrow morning. All right, let's check out some of these comments here. Let's see here. Mike, will this strengthen towards Akron? Further south of downtown Akron, the better chance of seeing these storms as they stand right now. Models kind of suggesting a little bit less in the way of rain from Akron points northward for the latter half of this evening. There could be a couple more rumbles tomorrow morning, very, very early. But all in all, I think most of Akron points north, Hudson, Twinsburg, Medina, Strongsville, Greater Cleveland, you'll be mostly quiet before about midnight tonight. And then the actual front moving through tomorrow morning, kind of bringing some of those showers and storms back into parts of the northern half of our viewing area along the Route 2 and I-90 corridor. So at least we'll see some rain for the second half of the overnight tonight. Don't think it'll be a lot of severe weather out there. Some good news there, but definitely some rumbles of thunder may wake you up before you actually want to get up. Mother Nature's alarm clock, you really can't hit the snooze button, unfortunately. I've tried. And could potentially see a couple of those tomorrow morning. But yeah, a lot of these lightning bolts, they're not increasing. So that is definitely some good news. A lot of these lightning strikes kind of going down for the last half hour or so as the atmosphere is kind of getting worked over, and not a lot of at least strengthening, which is some good news. So let's see here. Thoughts for southern Stark County. Cheney, probably some gusty winds. If this storm kind of holds together, it possibly could bring some lightning. We'll have to wait probably the next half hour, 45 minutes to really see if this will continue to move further into Stark County, Tuscarawas County. You're on the edge of that kind of storm system right now, so it is starting to weaken a bit. The lightning strikes not nearly as strong as they once were about 10-15 minutes ago. So that is at least some good signs. Let's see here. Let's see, anything for Avon? Nothing right now in Avon, so that is some good news. Most of the northern half of our viewing area from Medina towards Akron, Ravenna points north, there's not much going on. So that is some good news. There could be a couple more storms moving back in for the second half of the evening. A lot of that should be sub-severe, but a lot of the folks in our southern communities, the Route 30 corridor, pretty much the only area of concern right now. So thank you very much for that comment. Let's see here. Winds picking up in Lodi. Nate, thank you for that. Watching us on Facebook. Let's see here. Lodi definitely showing some signs of increasing those winds right now. And let's see. Not quite to the system just yet. There could be some lightning in the distance, you'll kind of notice, but shouldn't be too much going on at the moment. But there could be some gusty winds ahead of this, as the atmosphere was pretty warm today. A lot of 80s for most of the afternoon today. So very summer-like May day here in Northeast Ohio. But a lot of these storms continuing to kind of at least weaken throughout the second half of this evening. So we have that severe thunderstorm watch to get everyone kind of updated once again for most of our southern communities for the next several hours. So between about now and 4 a.m., that watch technically in place. Whether or not it'll continue to stay that way, especially for our western communities, I really don't see that happening unless there's a big intensification that just kind of comes out of nowhere. But for the most part, I'm not really seeing a lot of intensification behind this line. In fact, a lot of these storms are kind of losing their steam, with a lot of the energy kind of being stolen for the eastern half of those storms right now, all the way from Mansfield to Worcester into Holmes County. So that warning to about 11:30, so about another 45 minutes or so before that warning kind of at least goes out of here. To the south, around Coshocton, Zanesville, the route to I-70 corridor, looking to be a little bit more intense. A lot more of that lightning continues to be definitely a lot more for the southern half of this storm line. So you can really kind of tell where a lot of those storms are intensifying. But towards the north, not a lot of indication of intensification. So the lightning's kind of getting lower and lower as it does move further eastward, which is certainly some good news. So let's take the lightning off here and take a look at some of these wind gusts. Let's take a few samples. Oops. Let's see here. So map 54, 38. Let's see. What was that? 73. So there could be some gusts a little higher than maybe 55, 60 in a few locations for the second half of this storm, which is slowly making its way a little bit further eastward. And let's check our Barron button. Not a lot of purples on here, which would kind of indicate more of a hail threat. So that is some good news there. So just kind of a stronger wind gust. You know, some branches maybe falling out of the trees once you get into the next few hours for parts of Ashland County towards Worcester. Mansfield, certainly a little bit less of those winds starting to make an appearance right now. But a lot of these storms are kind of starting to fade out a little bit. So that's some good news for folks in Worcester towards Dalton, Brewster, Canton, around the I-77 corridor. So we'll keep a close eye on this as it does move further eastward. A lot of the intense storms are well to the south. So that is kind of outside of our viewing area, which is at least going to be a little bit in the way of problematic for the southern half of Ohio. But right now, not too many of those storms reaching most of Akron and points north. So at least recap, we have the severe thunderstorm warnings. Fort Wayne County, that does include Worcester, Ashland County, which also includes Ashland. Now kind of the southern half of Richland County points north of Mansfield. I think you're mostly in the clear from this storm. And then Millersburg around Holmes County, definitely inundated with this storm as the lightning continuing to stay a little bit more active. And I thank our director here for that lovely glass of water. Always pleasant. Very, very, very refreshing. So that high quality H2O. Okay. Yeah, so that goes through about 11:30 tonight. And once we get past this main line, a lot of this I don't think is going to continue with regards to the actual watch box. So hopefully we'll see most of this out of here before about midnight tonight. And then that way we don't have to worry too much more. And a lot of folks can get to sleep as we've got a lot of good fun events going on this weekend for many folks out there. And let's take a look here. We got some thunder in Orville. Matthew, thank you for watching us on Facebook this evening. And let's see here. Lodi, definitely a lot of lightning show going on. Thank you, Nate, for that. Always fun to watch the lightning, especially if you're on the deck and it's not a severe thunderstorm, which is always a nice treat if you can enjoy some of that thunderstorm and not have to worry about any severe weather. But a lot of this lightning is really beginning to fade. I'm not really seeing too many more lightning strikes than about 40, maybe 50. Okay, we kind of bumped up a little bit, but that did include parts of central Ohio. So the further north, we're only looking at between about 28 and 30 lightning strikes right now for parts of this severe thunderstorm warning. I think Mansfield, along I-71 towards Lexington, Butler. Yeah, you're technically still in the warning, but a lot of that is starting to fade out. And a lot of the main focus is moving further eastward. So those in Shreve, Worcester, Welcome, Kilbuck, you probably want to at least be indoors for the moment, as that threat of some stronger winds could be a possibility. A few lightning strikes out there, maybe some heavier raindrops. And this continues to move a little bit further north and eastward. So I think probably the northern half of Ashland County towards Shelby, Mansfield, Bucyrus, I think mostly in the clear tonight. So if you do want to head to bed tonight, you should be able to get some sleep. There might be a few rumbles of thunder lingering throughout the next couple of hours in a few areas for the at least southern half of our counties. But once we get into, I'd say between now and 11:30, 12 o'clock tonight, things beginning to quiet down. So that is some good news. So let's see here. Let's see. Lori, Lakewood getting storms. Possibly after midnight, early tomorrow morning, there will be a potential for a couple of stronger storms out there, but not a lot going on for the moment. A lot of these storms remain farther to our south, and we'll definitely see a potential increasing for the second half of the overnight tonight through the wee hours of tomorrow morning. But a lot of that does not appear to be on the severe side, so that is some good news. So right now, a lot of these severe thunderstorm warnings, you're just kind of at least continuing for the eastern half of our at least viewing area. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Kelly's Island. Let's see here. Maisa, I'm sorry if my Parma Heights, a little bit more quiet weather for the moment. Nothing going on for the time being. There will be a potential for some showers and storms after midnight. Should be below severe limits. That is some good news there. Let's see here. Kim, Kelly's Island, you're good to go for the moment. There might be a storm or two after midnight tonight. Should be below severe limits across our western communities towards the islands, but that severe thunderstorm watch does not include anyone along Route 2 I-90 for the foreseeable future. Okay, let's take a look here. Jessica, watching us from Facebook. Thank you. Stark County, we'll definitely keep a close eye on it. Right now, the storms are kind of weakening. You'll notice a lot of the lightning not really showing signs of intensification. About 5-6 minutes ago, we were well over 30 lightning strikes. We're down about 16 to only near 20. So it's starting to show signs of weakening. Could be some gusty winds as this system moves further eastward, but the signs are definitely indicating less and less, at least stronger winds. So that is certainly some good news. So Stark County may be under severe thunderstorm warning in the next half hour, 45 minutes, but chances are getting less and less as these storms are moving further eastward. So right now, let's see. Deborah, Ashland County, still under that warning. Technically, Mansfield has now been dropped from that warning, so you're good to go there. We still have that severe thunderstorm watch till about 4 a.m., but I don't see that at least lingering too much longer than midnight tonight. So there might be a couple more storms kind of popping in behind it, but a lot of the main focus is going to be further south than we are here in Northeast Ohio. So those areas towards the south, towards Newark, towards Athens, Chillicothe, Hillsborough, it could be a little bit more active between now and midnight tonight. So you may want to give folks a call if you're going to be out and about throughout the overnight tonight. If you're maybe checking on somebody down in Athens or further south, there could be a few more, at least stronger storms in our southern part of the state. So let's see, about 5 to 11, we're going to get on with the newscast in about 5 or so minutes, but not a lot of concern, at least from what I'm seeing. So that is some good news there. We'll definitely take a break, get the 11 o'clock news in. We got to get that taken care of before, if anything does continue for the latter half of the 11:30 hour until things are quieting down. We'll definitely come back to you here on Facebook and YouTube. I appreciate all the comments, and I thank you guys very, very much for all those reports. And we'll definitely be talking a little bit after 11 if things warrant. And we'll hopefully keep the fingers crossed we don't have to come back as these storms are continuing to fade over the next half hour, 45 minutes. But if you want to check out News 5 at 11, we'll bring you all the details coming up very, very shortly.